You have a craving right now, something you would go and get if it were close enough. Coffee, sugar, a cigarette, something. That feeling is older than your species, older than fire, older than the word for want. Here's the number that should stop you. The first ancestor who got drunk did it roughly 10 million years ago. That is 8 million years before anything you would call human. Nobody brewed it, nobody wanted it. It was rotting fruit on a forest floor, and something in a body decided it was worth eating anyway. So the story we tell is backwards. We think humans invented intoxication. We did not. We inherited it. And once you see what we actually got hooked on first, the whole thing looks less like a vice and more like a machine doing exactly what it was built to do. Every layer of this is stranger than the one above. Let's go. Let's start with honey, because honey is where the risk begins. Picture the job. A hive is 40 feet up a smooth trunk. Inside it are 20,000 insects that will attack your face. You have no rope, no gloves, no ladder. You climb anyway. Hadza foragers in Tanzania still do this. Honey is up to 15% of what they eat in a year. 15%. For a food that fights back. Now ask why. A handful of berries is safe. Roots are safe. Nobody climbs 40 feet for a root. Because honey is 80% sugar. Nothing else in that landscape comes close. A hive is the single densest packet of energy a body can find in the wild, and a brain that finds one lights up in a way a berry never manages. So it drives you. It makes the stings worth it. And it does not stop when the danger stops. Watch a person eat honey. They keep going after they are full. That is the first symptom. Wanting past the point of need. There is a bird in East Africa called the honeyguide. It leads people to hives. It calls, it flies, it waits, it calls again. Humans follow. The bird gets the wax, the people get the honey. Nobody trained it. This partnership is older than farming, older than writing, possibly older than our species leaving Africa. Think about that for a second. We built a working relationship with a wild animal, across the species line, to get sugar. That is not a snack, that is a supply chain, and the bird is worth one more number. Where people follow it, the odds of finding a hive roughly triple, and the search time drops by about 2/3. Researchers tested the calls and found the birds answer one specific human sound and ignore the rest. 2 species, no shared language, both getting paid, for sugar. Now the second thing worth climbing for, fat. Lean meat alone will not keep you alive. Eat nothing but rabbit and you starve on a full stomach. Arctic explorers wrote it down and gave it a name. Rabbit starvation. Protein without fat takes you apart in about a week. A body needs fat. Marrow is fat. Brain is 60% fat. Both are locked inside bone. So we broke the bone. Cut marks on animal bones go back 2.5 million years. Look at where they are. Not on the muscle. On the joints where you get in. Early hunters would walk away from good meat and carry off the skull. Just the skull. It is the densest fat in the animal and nothing else can open it. The wanting system rates fat above almost everything, and it is doing plain arithmetic. Fat carries 9 calories a gram. Protein and sugar carry 4. Twice the payload, same weight. The machine noticed. Now the third thing, and this one arrives before we do. Fruit falls. Fruit sits. Yeast lands on it. Yeast eats the sugar and makes alcohol. A ripe fruit that has been on the ground 2 days is roughly 0.5% alcohol. A very overripe one can hit 4. That is a weak drink. It is also the only drink that existed for most of the history of life. Robert Dudley at Berkeley put a name on this. He calls it the drunken monkey hypothesis. The idea is simple and slightly insulting. Our ancestors did not find alcohol. Alcohol found them, on the ground, in the food. And here's the part that turns it from a story into evidence. Alcohol is a poison. Your body needs a specific enzyme to take it apart. Most primates have a weak version. It barely works. In 2015, Matthew Kerrigan and his colleagues rebuilt that enzyme from ancient genes. They resurrected the versions our ancestors carried, going back tens of millions of years, and tested each one. For most of that history, the enzyme is slow. Then, about 10 million years ago, On the branch leading to gorillas, chimps, and us, it changes. A single mutation. The new version is 40 times faster. 40 times. In one step. That is not drift. That is a body being rebuilt around a food source. 10 million years ago, our ancestors were coming down out of the trees. Fruit on the ground is fruit that has been sitting. Fruit that has been sitting is fermenting. The apes that could process it ate. The apes that could not went hungry or got sick. So the tolerance came first. The taste came with it. And both of them were installed before there was a human being to install them in. You did not develop a taste for alcohol. You were born holding it. Now the fourth thing, and it is the strangest of the four, it has no pleasure in it at all. Salt. A body needs it and cannot make it. Sweat takes it out. One hard day in heat can cost you 5 grams. Inland, there is almost none. Meat carries a little. Plants carry less. So people walked. Salt roads are some of the oldest roads on Earth. Caravans still cross the Sahara on lines that were ancient when Rome was young. In Austria, there is a mine that has been worked for 7,000 years, and a whole town sits on top of it. Men went underground on ropes, with torches, to dig up a mineral. Not for the feeling. Salt gives you nothing. The wanting system pushed anyway, because the shortage takes you apart before you notice it starting. That is the machine at its best. It made people solve a problem they could not feel. Now why does any of this stick? Why does the wanting outlive the need? Because of one system, and it is not the one people think. Ask anybody why addiction happens and they will say pleasure. The thing feels good, so you go back. That is wrong, and it has been wrong in textbooks for decades. The system that drives this is not the one that produces enjoyment. It is the one that produces pursuit. Wanting and liking run on separate machinery. You can see the split in the clearest possible way. Animals with the pursuit system knocked out still enjoy sweet food when it is placed in their mouths. Their faces show it. They simply will not cross the cage to get it. They like it. They do not want it. And the reverse happens too, which is worse. The pursuit system can be driven hard while enjoyment falls away entirely. That is every serious addiction ever described. The person is not chasing pleasure. They stopped getting pleasure a long time ago. They are chasing because the chase is what the machinery does. There is a detail in the timing that gives the whole thing away. The signal does not fire when you get the thing. It fires when you learn the thing is coming. Feed an animal on a schedule with a sound before the food. At first, the chemistry spikes at the food. Within days, it stops spiking at the food entirely. It spikes at the sound. The reward moved backwards in time, which means the system is not paying you for enjoying. It is paying you for predicting. It is a teaching signal. It writes down whatever led to the good thing so you can find your way back. And that is why it will not let go. It is not storing the honey, it is storing the route. In 1954, 2 researchers at McGill made a mistake that became the most important accident in the field. James Olds and Peter Milner were placing electrodes in rat brains and missed their target. The wire landed somewhere they had not planned. They gave the animal a lever. Pressing it sent a small current to that spot. The rat pressed it again, then would not stop. Some animals pressed several thousand times an hour. They pressed instead of eating. They pressed instead of drinking. One study had them cross an electrified floor to reach the lever, taking the shock on the way. Nothing was being delivered. No food, no water, no chemical of any kind. Only the signal that says something good is coming. That is the whole finding. You do not need the reward. You only need the promise of it. The lever was a lie. The lie was enough. Nobody has ever produced a cleaner demonstration that wanting and getting are 2 different things. Now put that machine in a forest. Its job is to make you cross difficult ground for rare, dense, valuable things. Honey, ripe fruit, fat, salt. All 4 are rare. All 4 run out. All 4 are worth a climb, a walk, a risk. The machine is calibrated for scarcity. It assumes that if you find something this good, you should take all of it right now, because it will be gone tomorrow. That assumption held for 10 million years. You were not designed to get what you want this easily. Read that again. Every part of the wanting system in your head was built for a world where the reward was hard to reach and small when you got there. 40 feet up a tree, 0.5% alcohol, a day of walking for a handful of berries. The difficulty was not an obstacle to the system. The difficulty was part of the design. It was the brake. We kept the machine. We removed the brake. But that comes later. First, watch what humans do the moment they have hands, fire, and patience. They stop waiting for fruit to rot on its own. There is an argument in archaeology that started in 1953 and has never been settled. It runs like this. Farming is hard. It costs more work per calorie than foraging. The first farmers were shorter and sicker than the foragers they replaced. So why did anyone do it? One answer is bread. The other answer is beer. At Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, there are carved stone vats holding up to 40 gallons. The site is 11,000 years old, older than pottery, older than any village near it. Some of those vats hold chemical traces of fermented grain. The temple came before the farm. Nobody has settled whether the loaf or the drink came first. That serious people still argue about it tells you how hard the pull was. At a site called Jiahu in central China, there are pottery jars 9,000 years old. Patrick McGovern and his team scraped the insides and ran the residue. Rice, honey, hawthorn fruit, fermented together deliberately, on purpose. 9,000 years ago. That is older than the wheel, older than writing, roughly as old as farming itself. And the same thing shows up everywhere, independently. In the Philippines, in Duyong Cave, teeth stained dark red. Betel nut, chewed for its mild stimulant, thousands of years back. In Spain, a burial cave in the south, bags woven from grass holding opium poppy capsules, around 6,000 years old. In Utah, at a site called Wishbone, charred tobacco seeds in a hearth, 12,300 years old, 12,000 years before anybody grew it as a crop. High in the Andes, there are burials with coca leaves, chewed together with lime to pull the alkaloid out. Some of those finds run past 8,000 years. In East Africa and southern Arabia, khat. It has to be chewed fresh because the active compound collapses within 2 days of picking. So people arrange their lives around getting it fast, and in a cave in northern Iraq, in a burial roughly 65,000 years old, clumps of pollen from ephedra and 7 other plants. Whether a human placed them or a rodent dragged them in is still argued. What is not argued is that every one of those plants is still used as medicine in that region today. Elisa Guerra-Dose went through the archaeology of this across prehistoric Europe and found the same pattern in every direction. Not one culture, not one plant. Everywhere, early, and always tied to the same 2 settings, burials and gatherings. That last detail matters more than it sounds. These are not people getting quietly wrecked alone. The substance is at the funeral. The substance is at the gathering. It is handed around, and who hands it to whom is the whole point. The first drugs were social technology. Which raises the obvious objection. Some of you are thinking this is just a story about weak people making bad choices, dressed up in bones. Fair question. And the answer comes from animals that have no culture at all. Reindeer in Siberia seek out a specific mushroom and eat it on purpose. Herders know this and use it to move the herd. Birds strip fermented berries and fly badly afterwards. Every year, in the same places. Bees will choose a sugar solution laced with caffeine over a clean one, and they remember where it was better. None of these animals have a ritual. None of them have peer pressure. They have the same machinery you do, running the same instruction. When you find something this rewarding, go back. So this is not a human failing. It is a vertebrate feature, and it is very old. And there is a second turn of the screw, built into the same system. Give a body the same dose for long enough and it adapts. It pulls its own machinery back to hold the balance. The amount that lit you up on day 1 does nothing by day 30. So the amount goes up. Not because anyone decided, because the baseline moved. Now the cruel part. Take the substance away and the machinery stays pulled back. Ordinary things stop registering. Food goes flat. Company goes flat. Nothing is enough. That is not damage in the usual sense. It is the same adjustment that lets you stop smelling a room after 10 minutes, running on something that never stops arriving. Go back to that detail about funerals and gatherings, because it is doing more work than it looks. Wherever the archaeology turns something up, the substance is in company, at the burial, at the feast. It goes around a circle, and the order is never random. The elder gets it first. The stranger gets it if he is being accepted. The one being punished does not get it at all. So it was never only chemistry. It was a way of saying who counted, without having to say it out loud. So what ended it? Not agriculture, not cities, something narrower and much sharper. Concentration. For 10 million years, every reward came diluted. Sugar came wrapped in fiber, inside a fruit, guarded by a tree. Alcohol came at 0.5%, inside food you had to find. The plant with the stimulant in it had to be chewed for an hour to do anything at all. The dose was always small, and the work was always large. That ratio was the safety mechanism, and no animal ever had to think about it. Look at the ratios and the story tells itself. Fruit fermenting on the ground, 0.5%. Beer, once you brew it deliberately, 4, maybe 5. Wine, 12. A distilled spirit, 40. A chewed coca leaf releases a few milligrams over an hour of work. The extracted powder delivers many times that in under a minute. A whole tobacco leaf takes an hour to chew. A cigarette puts nicotine into the brain in about 7 seconds. Every step in that list keeps the molecule identical and shortens the distance between wanting and having. That distance was the safety catch. Nobody removed it on purpose. We just got better at chemistry. Then we learned to strip things down. Distillation is roughly 1,000 years old in the form we would recognize. It takes a drink of a few percent and makes it 40. Refined sugar arrives, and the fiber is gone, and the tree is gone, and it pours from a bag. Tobacco is cured to hold the nicotine, and rolled to deliver it to the lung in 7 seconds. 7 seconds. Chewing a leaf takes an hour. And there is one number that makes the point better than all the others. A wild hive holds around 25 pounds of honey in a good year. That is the entire prize. You climb 40 feet, you take the stings, and when it is gone until next season. There was always a ceiling. Nothing you can buy today has a ceiling. That is the whole difference, and it is only a few centuries old. And here's the one you are probably running on right now. Coffee reaches Europe in the 1600s. Within a century, London has over 2,000 coffee houses. Governments try to shut them down twice and fail twice. Today, caffeine is the most used psychoactive substance on the planet. Roughly 80% of adults take it every day. Almost nobody counts it as a drug. That is a whole argument in one cup. Nothing about the chemistry is gentle. The dose is mild and the supply is steady, so it reads as a habit instead of a problem. Here is the price, in numbers, and it is being paid right now. Tobacco alone accounts for roughly 8 million lives lost worldwide every year. Alcohol adds around 3 million more. Somewhere near 400 million people live with a substance disorder of one kind or another. And look at where the weight actually falls. Not on the rarest substances, on the two that are cheap, legal, and on every corner. Tobacco and alcohol together cost more years of human life than every illegal drug on Earth combined, several times over. Availability is doing the work, not wickedness. None of those bodies are broken. Every one of them is running a 10-million-year-old program correctly, in an environment that program has never seen. The machine says, "This is rare and valuable. Take all of it now." Put one number against another, and the case closes. An English household in 1700 got through about 2 kilograms of sugar a year. By 1800 it was 8. By 1900 it was 40. Today across the rich world it runs near 40 kilograms a head, and almost none of it arrives inside a fruit. 2 kilograms was a year of treats. 40 is a normal week, repeated. Nothing about the tongue changed in 300 years. It is the same tongue that climbed the tree. Only the supply moved, and it moved by a factor of 20. The machine is wrong about exactly one thing. It is not rare anymore. So what if we have this backwards? What if craving is not a defect in a person? What if it is a measurement? What if the strength of the pull is telling you something true, that this substance is delivering a reward at a concentration nothing in nature ever managed, and your body is responding to that concentration exactly as it should? What if the shame we attach to it is the least useful part of the whole picture? The wanting is not a moral failure. It is a very old instrument, reading a signal it was never built to receive. Look at what the same system does when it is pointed at something scarce and difficult. It is the thing that keeps a hunter on a track for 9 hours. It is the thing that makes somebody learn an instrument for years with no reward in sight. It is why a problem you cannot solve will follow you to bed. Every one of those is the wanting system running clean. Same chemistry, same instruction. Go and get it. The instruction was never the problem. Because in the world that built it, the instrument was right every single time. Something that tasted like that, at that intensity, really was worth climbing for. There was no version of the forest where the honey was infinite. And here's the part I did not expect. The machine still works properly on everything else. It is the same system that makes you finish a difficult piece of work. The same one that gets you out of bed for something you care about, that pulls you toward a person, that will not let you leave a problem alone until it is solved. Pursuit is not the enemy. Pursuit is the engine. The honey was never the point. Climbing was the point. The machine was built to make you climb. We traded a world where everything worth having was hard to reach, for one where the best of it arrives in seconds, and most of us never even knew the difficulty was the safety catch. So the next time the craving shows up, and it will, probably today, try to hear it correctly. That is not weakness talking. That is a 10-million-year-old ancestor halfway up a tree, being stung in the face and deciding it is worth it. Now I want to hear from you. What is the one thing you keep going back to that you know you do not need? Put it in the comments. I have a theory that most of the answers will be sweet. Most of the answers will be sweet. Most of the answers will be sweet.